resentment isn't going to get in the way because you both know that when you need to say something difficult or have that hard conversation, it's nested inside that I love you and I know you could be even better than this, and just a case in point here, like, I mean, the very name of your podcast speaks to that.
Okay, well then I'd be like, look, this is where the line will not be crossed. You're not bringing somebody back here. If it's getting to a point where she's bringing someone back to their house, they need to have a full-blown conversation, in my opinion.
What he's telling her is that she has all the power because she's choosing to go out and date other people, completely disrespecting him, completely disrespecting the relationship, and he's still saying, well, I'll still have sex with you. He should not be having sex with her. He's showing a desperation. He's showing that he can be controlled by sex, and he should have stopped doing that. He should have said, no, we're definitely not having sex, and I'm leaving. And that's the only choice that he has.
I think there's a really important context here as well, perhaps like another perspective. And you mentioned the word enabling, John, which I think is really, really important here. I think when we're, without getting too philosophical, I tend to have a bit of a habit of doing this, but I think like part of loving someone is loving who they are as well as who they could be. And for the sake of someone who is being not necessarily like end of the spectrum abusive, right? But part of loving also who they could be means setting boundaries and telling the truth and so on. So I think like, again, it gets really convoluted when we're talking about these, very, very big, wide open, esoteric terms. We don't even have a set definition for love right now.
Yeah.
But I think like, you guys, like, listening to you both talk and listening to how sort of pragmatic and practical you go about your relationship, there seems to be this lovely balance of loving each individual as they are as well as who they could be, which means that resentment isn't going to get in the way because you both know that when you need to say something difficult or have that hard conversation, it's nested inside that I love you and I know you could be even better than this. And just a case in point here, like, I mean, the very name of your podcast speaks to that, so I think that's really important too. There's so many guys that I'm sure you guys come across, and we certainly do in our group as well. They find that border or that balance between sort of love and truth or compassion and encouragement really difficult to navigate. And I think that so much of it is about intention, right? And if you can nest it inside the context of like, I'm not saying this to be like a dickhead, or I'm not saying it because I'm trying to avoid it. I'm saying this because I know we can be fucking awesome. And I just think that that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw some more Arrakis spice into the equation. I just watched doing, yeah. So I just listened to a call of a client, and this is his situation. I want to know what you guys think about this. So He's married with his wife, and she is still intimate with him across the week and stuff. And she lives they live at the house together, but she's openly dating other people, even though he doesn't want her to, and he still wants to save the marriage. And she said, Friday, I'm bringing a guy over. You shouldn't be there. This guy can go from the one spectrum of I'm going to leave and give her the space she needs, or I'm going to stay there and confront the guy, and everything in between. Based on that, like, what do all you all think about that? Because I know what I would do, tell him, but I'm curious what you guys think.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, you can go first if you want.
I mean, if I were him, I would say no. Like, I would have a boundary of like, look, you're openly dating. I guess they agreed to that. I hope.
Agreed. Well, he didn't have much of a choice. She said,
she said that that's what's happening. Okay. Well, then I'd be like, look, this is where the line will not be crossed. You're not bringing somebody back here. If it's getting to a point where she's bringing someone back to their house, they need to have a full-blown conversation, in my opinion, because she's not taking him seriously. I would say that because she's dating other people, like, period. But now she's bringing someone home. That's getting way too deep into territory that I don't think he's going to come back from that unless he has firm boundaries and kind of like shows her like, hey, like, no, like, I didn't really want you to date people to begin with, and now you're bringing somebody back. Like, this is not acceptable. Like, it's not something I'm going to tolerate.
Very often, like what consequence could he enact besides just saying you can't do that? Because then if she still does it, then what can he do as a consequence?
I mean, I know he wants to stay with her, but boundaries only work if you actually follow through with the boundary. So I think he should leave. I know he wants to be with her. I understand that. But as a woman, like, I'm telling him that he needs to leave because this woman is not taking him seriously. And I think the only way that he can save this is if he walks away, is if he mans up, has the boundaries, and shows her, no, this is not. Because a lot of times it doesn't make a lot of sense, but women don't make a lot of sense sometimes, and men don't make a lot of sense sometimes. But the second that a man like steps up and is a man and has a boundary and does it in, like John said, a kind way, like he's not yelling, he's not threatening her, but he's like, look, I don't like this. I'm not going to tolerate this. You can do what you want, but I will be exiting this relationship. And I know that's hard when you're married. I do understand that. But that's the only way that he could possibly get her back. And it sounds stupid because it's like you're leaving to get her back. But in my opinion, that's the only way.
But I think also I would say, okay, so one thing is that the reason why she's doing this is because he's the kind of guy that would allow her to do this. And it's proven by him allowing her to do this. So she already knew that he was that guy, which is why she's not as attracted to him, which is why she's doing this. And I think in any relationship, women will always test boundaries because they want safety and security. And the only way to ensure that you have safety is to push against a boundary and to see how far can you go. And I don't think women do it in a malicious way. I think it's literally them trying to find safety. And if a guy does not respond by creating a boundary, he will get walked all over. Every single woman will walk all over a guy if given the opportunity. Again, it's not a knock against women. It's not a bad thing. It's just how they find their safety. But I think his big mistake, right, which is an unrecoverable one because he has completely lost that self-respect in this case, is that he is having sex with her. Because look, what he's telling her is that she has all the power because she's choosing to go out and date other people, completely disrespecting him, completely disrespecting the relationship. And he's still saying, well, I'll still have sex with you. He should not be having sex with her. He's showing a desperation. He's showing that he can be controlled by sex. And he should have stopped doing that. He should have said, no, we're definitely not having sex. And I'm leaving. Like, and that's the only choice that he has is to leave. And I would even question at this point, you know, even if see the problem with I think with men taking women back ever is that women need to respect a man in order to be sexually attracted to him. And so it sort of becomes a catch-22 because as soon as you have to leave a woman, like not, you know, or break up with her, you know, because of something that she's done, if you take her back, then she will in some way lose respect for you and you start the cycle over again. So I think it's really, he has to have enough respect for himself to say, I don't want to be with this woman. And then that's the highest chance that she would come back. And then at that point, I mean, I think it would require her to be on her knees asking forgiveness and for it to be completely believable that some real good reason that he should get back together with her. But even then I would question, like, I mean, he has to kind of view it in his mind that it's done because she's lost respect for me. And the only way I could gain it back would be to leave. And then at that point there's no way to change that around. So that's my view on it. But
what do you guys think?
Like, what do you think, Josh? Yeah, I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon of Nicole there. What do you think? Just gonna divert it.
Yeah, it is a complicated situation, right? I'll say this first, which is and I'm not exaggerating at all. Every single man I've gotten a call with that saved their marriage, there's always this point where the man has let go, right? He's like let go of the idea of needing her. And it's not something that you can just force. It has to come naturally. It's an experiential process. And it's having the realization that you're okay without her, essentially. And then as soon as that happens, even if the wife doesn't even see it. She's like, she feels it. It's like the collective consciousness. And then 99 times out of 100, and the only times I don't say 100 out of 100 is because maybe the guy didn't see this happen or he didn't recognize when it did, but the wife will do something where she's like dangles something in front of him, like, hey, I'll come back. But she still has this boundary that she's crossing. And the only time a guy will get her back, he's like, well, you have to stop seeing that guy, or like you have to move back in. He'll establish what he wants with the chance of possibly losing her. And that's when she comes back. But if she like dangles that carrot in front of him or whatever, and he just jumps on, he's like, okay, I'll take you back. She doesn't come back. Right. And so it is that paradox, John, but it's absolutely true, man. The guy has to let go. And with this guy, like I would tell him exactly that, is which what you said, John, is like, dude, like, okay, you could sit there and confront the guy, and then what? Then you look reactive and low value, right? You can pretend you don't care, which, or you can truly just like tell her how this makes you feel, because your emotions mean something to you, because as a man who respects himself, you're going to say this and you're going to say what you want and what you need. And expect her to say yes. And if she doesn't, you have to enact that consequence. And you're not doing it for the outcome. I'll say so many guys, when they hear that, they're like, okay, is that going to work to get her back? Right. It's like the guy who teaches you dating. Like, okay, so if I say that line and I pretend I don't care, then I'll get the girl's number, right? It's like, no, you have to actually truly mean that, because she'll sense it out. So I'm doubling down on what you're saying.
Yeah. And you don't have respect for yourself until you truly mean that.